Hey, what's going on, good people? This your man James Harris checking in from the Mental Heal Movement. Definitely appreciate you guys for stopping by. Today I'm gonna talk about grief. So make sure you like, subscribe, share because somebody definitely probably can benefit from this video. It's 2020 in the wake of everything that's going on. So it's definitely gonna be some good information and some tools that you guys can use. So make sure you like, subscribe, and of course share with different people, man. But of course, I'm gonna dive into the stages of grief, and I'll be working from Kubler Ross model, which I learned in grad school a couple years ago. And of course, I use this and I implement it in not only private practice setting, but of course the community. So hopefully, you guys can benefit from it too. Not only the clients and therapists, but of course my veterans, and of course everybody that's affected by, of course, grief, which is pretty much everybody. All of us experience grief at some point. So hopefully, you guys can again take some away from it. So like, subscribe, share, and stuff like that. So to get started, man, the 5 stages is, of course, you got denial, you got anger, you got bargaining, you got depression, and the acceptance phase. So again, you don't have to go do these phases in order that I list them, because of course grief affects each person differently. But of course, in the denial stage, it's like that immediate reaction. In this stage, individuals believe that the diagnosis is somehow mistaken, and they cling to that false belief, like, nah, ain't no way, it can't be my boy, I was just with him, or not my girl, like I just, so people start to deny it. It hurts them because it's such a shock. They gradually absorb the news and begin to process it. This is a defense mechanism within this stage. It helps you numb the intensity of the situation. So that denial phase is pretty critical early on, because people don't fully grasp what had taken place, whether it was a tragedy or just an onset illness, or just the news of somebody just recently passed. So the anger phase is like individuals recognize that denial cannot continue. They become frustrated, like starts to get upset, just figuring out like, why did this happen? They're just angry. And a lot of people get stuck in this phase because they don't know how to process it. And realistically, a death probably taking place, and you wonder why this person is always upset, because they probably have unresolved anger from their grief. It's a hidden emotion that the pain tends to carry on within this phase. Of course, not everybody recognizes they're in the stage of anger. Some people may have the anger stage longer than any other stage, because it's so unresolved. And some people get upset and don't know why. They're easily frustrated, easily agitated, and this could be potentially because they didn't deal with the onset of that anger from the loss of the loved one and the loss of the friend that may have occurred. The bargaining stage is pretty much you trying to figure out and make understanding of the situation. Like, oh man, please, I would trade my life for this person, or Lord, please, if you just bring this person back so they can see me get married, or just you're trying to bargain, you're trying to understand and reevaluate your situations with your higher power, your deity, and trying to figure out. But for many people, of course, this helps postpone their sadness, their confusion. They tend to be less hurt because they're clinging on to that bargaining, like, no, we're going to make this work. We're going to figure out a way to move, get this person back, or whatever the case is. So the bargaining stage is critical. A lot of people will be in this phase, they try to avoid the grief. They try to avoid feeling like, the impacts of the grief that occurred. Depression is probably one of the biggest phases within the grief model, because like anger, people tend to get here and linger here. They be sad, don't want to bother with the tasks that they normally do. And of course, they get depressed themselves within the different symptoms of depression, such as loss of interest and pleasure. They have a lack of appetite, poor sleep schedule. They tend to isolate. They tend to just want to be alone so they can mourn the death of their loved one that occurs. So it's important that we identify the depression stage and try to build our resilience up to get beyond this stage, like getting beyond the anger stage. And those two stages are most critical, and they can happen simultaneously. Somebody can be so frustrated and angry that they want to be by themselves and push others away. So it's definitely important to recognize that during the depression phase. Individuals tend to recognize their own mortality. in the state of the individuals become silent. They refuse to hang out with people, refuse to get visitors, even though they know that other people are grieving along the loss with them. It can be difficult. And of course, the acceptance phase is, all right, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be strong. The person that you lost will want me to move on. They will want me to be resilient and get over it, and just to move forward. So, you tend to talk yourself up. You tend to get hype. And it's, this pretty much is the last stage. And again, these stages can happen in an order. But of course, acceptance is like pretty much the ending of it. You feel like, all right, you can move forward. You can continue to go. And you realize that death is inevitable. The future, it's going to happen to your loved ones. Other tragic events going to happen. So you tend to want to, realize the situation is some happening. You got to move forward. People die may perceive the survivor in this state. They tend to be calm, collected for the individuals, and then they recognize, like, I have to be strong for me, but I also got to be strong for, my potential children or my potential teammates or co-workers or family members. You might be that figure in the family for people to view you as a way that they can now get to the acceptance phase. So you want to look for acceptance as a way to see that there may be good and bad in each situation, but it's still going to be okay. It's still going to be a process in which you can learn to cope with, learn to identify with, and these stages, again, can happen in any variation. It's not one set way that you can process grief. Like, some people may linger in the stage, some people may get over even faster. So not everybody will experience the full 5 stages of grief either. Some people may get stuck in a phase or may skip a phase, but that doesn't mean that they're not grieving. That's just their process, like it's your process. Grief is different for everybody. We are different people. We have different resilience levels. We have different ability to cope with the loss of the situation. So bargaining stage, you might find yourself angry or in denial about the situation. Some people, again, might find themselves more depressed because they probably was extremely close to this loved one, or whatever the case is, specifically to you and your grief journey is also specifically to you in your healing and resilience journey. Again, you might remain in a stage for a day, a month, a year, or many years. It all depends. But of course, these are tools to assist you in recognizing those phases and how to potentially move on and be better for it. So again, like, subscribe, share, because somebody might be dealing with this right now and might need some tools to better assist them. It's also resources on my website, mentoheal.com, www.mentoheal.com. So feel free to scroll there, send me your emails, your inboxes, and I'll answer them best I can, or point you to other resources. There's also a resource page on my website. And I'll probably drop some resources in here too to assist anybody. But again, identify ways to process your grief. You got to acknowledge your pain. You got to accept that grief can trigger many different unexpected emotions from you. You might be sad, you might be angry, you might be lonely, you might be irritable. Those things are normal within the grief setting. Understand that your grieving process is, again, unique to you, not me. I'm in no position to tell you how to grieve. You're in no position to tell me how to grieve, and our neighbors or whoever. It's a unique process to each individual. Definitely try to seek face-to-face support if you got like some other loved ones that you can count on, or you go to therapy or process it, or you just might want to get away and talk to somebody else that don't know this person or have no unbiased or no judgment with you in this grieving situation. Support yourself emotionally by taking care of your physical self as well as your mental health. All of that's important. All of that is tied together. So again, you don't want to get in that depression phase and stop eating, or stop sleeping as much as you can, not movement and not being active and stuff like that, because that can create different issues later. You also want to recognize the difference between grief and depression. Again, you don't want to linger in that depression or anger stage, because it can be more detrimental to your overall health and mental wellness. And before I leave, man, I just want to inform you guys on a couple different myths that are going on out there. So some people feel that the pain will go away faster if you ignore it. That's not necessarily true. Don't ignore the pain. You have to process the pain. You have to process the entire situation. Figure out what works best for you in your coping journey, your healing journey. But don't ignore the situation, because that's going to come back, and it might even hit harder once you do process it and recognize it. Another myth: if I don't cry, that means I don't care about the person that we lost. That's not true either. So you definitely want to cry. Or if you don't cry, that doesn't mean you're not as upset. Crying is implicated on you as an individual. So feel free to cry. Feel free to let it out any way that you feel that you can. Grief should last about a year is another myth I heard. No, grief should last as long as you're processing and remembering the person. It's up to you. It's not up to me. So don't put a timetable on it. Grieve. Go through the stages. Learn yourself. Learn your ability to cope. Learn your ability to become resilient. Another myth is probably moving on with my life means I forgot about the person that we lost. That's not true either. You moving on is definitely something that has to happen. And that person that you lost will want you to move on. They will want you to be strong and resilient and help others. And if you do move on, that doesn't mean you forgot about this person. That just means now that you accepted it and you figured out a way to deal with it, and you're better for it. You overcame it. So it also depends on you, man. So continue to develop yourself. Continue to have that resilience. Continue to believe that the person that you lost is in a better place and is in a place to where they can provide you oversight and help you when you need to. So definitely feel free to continue to grow from it. Help anybody else that's in need. Like, share, subscribe to this video, because a lot of people are grieving these days just due to untimely situations. Like it's tough out here. So I definitely wanted to do my part, make sure you guys are good. And these things are some of the things that I use in practice with the clients that I have, whether it's in the community or in private practice. So this is definitely a beneficial tool. So if you need anything else, just hit me up, www.men2heal.com, or Instagram, men_TO_HEAL. Let me know, man. Leave me a question in my inbox on here, or email me. It's up to you, but I definitely want to be a resource and outlet for you. Again, you definitely can do these stages and phases any way that you feel that you need to process your grief. It's no right or wrong answer how to grieve. It's an individual and unique process to you. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you think.